Well, hopefully now we've got some ideas of these circuits so we can think about applying this in the therapy room on Monday morning. Uh, let's begin though by doing one more cerebellar test. Dysdiacokinesia. Hands on your knees, please, and then back and forth as fast as you can. So let's go ahead and ready, go. Ready, go. Go, 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 stop. I'd like to also share this brain localization form on the cerebellum that Deanne put together with Dr. Karazian. You notice that it's in your handout, but it has the spino area, the cerebrio, and then the vestibular area divided out, very much like the peduncles we've talked about before. Just to remind you about the cerebellar gait pattern. When somebody walks in the room, if both the arm and the leg on the one side are rotated in, that indicates that ipsilateral deficit. And that means that we need to do complex mobility drills to that ipsilateral side of that eye. And this responds best to that speed, perturbation we'll talk about, load, eyes open, eyes closed. So I'm hoping so far that you've had some aha moments like me as I've been studying. And it's like, oh, that's why we do it that way. As we understand mechanism, we can apply this even deeper. And let's go into that. And as we talk about movement, remember retina is the only part of the brain that does move. The eyes really should be treated like that coupled joint that needs to be explored, mapped, stimulated by movement. And as a health trainer, I do this on myself every day at the gym. Here's some key concepts when we look at a therapeutic tool. It must be used multimodally. In other words, just in isolation. We have to start adding movement in all the senses. When we have an eye movement that's broken, when you have a system that's broken, we need to use something, repair it with something that's not broken. And we'll be just talking about that more specifically. And that can be used specifically to activate or exercise the region of the brain that we want to stimulate, the fire together, wire together. And so with as assessment tools, we have to look at the reflex portion versus the volitional and compare the horizontal to the vertical as you understand now the vertical components on the cerebellar inputs. So gaze fixation is prepared. Again, we talked about that as far as flocculus, and it's tested with the right eye or observation. And we use the VR to repair it, both the angular and the angular cancellation VOR. So holding a fixation off center to counter out that ocular muscle elasticity. MIT, the macular integrity tester holds, laser pointer holds, particularly looking straight ahead, having the laser pointer and just holding the eyes still. And then central and peripheral activities. Remember that's particularly the flocculus and paraflocculus are associated with that eccentric gaze fixation. And I love the people that we talked about stretching our muscles, which it does, but holding that in one area requires a lot of neuroactivity. Again, this wonderful phenomenon looking right at the center, holding it still until it disappears. You have to hold it still for those seconds. Another cheap, easy way to teach our ability. And then maintaining that fixation up to 30 seconds and eccentric gaze is just a powerful tool. And again, as we've shown you, the MIT, as well as the McDonald card. I sent in the handout these definition cards that are associated with a focus builder, and I'm hoping that you get a chance to use them. Again, these gentlemen have done an excellent idea. These doctors have done excellent ideas on putting together therapeutic approaches to what we do. And and particularly in gaze, gaze is the foundation for everything else. So we need to check it. Pursuits, remember for the FOR, it's the start and stop, the vestibular or the vermis, and then the flocculus is more that maintaining it on during the phase and how a direction adapts. So we test that by the Grafman's tracings, diagnostically, eye sync, eye tracking devices like the right eye, and of course all of our ocular motor tests. And of course, we're experts at this. We pair it with a Marsden ball. Maybe we can think about now the Marsden ball maintaining and starting and stopping, and then using pursuits as along with the Marsden ball. Yes and no in the plane, and then again that following, direct following during pursuits. Remember that natural elasticity of the electroocular muscles and that power of directionality. So if I have a problem with eye left, I can go way over to the right and get that rubber band going to go into the left, okay? If I only want to go to the right, I can also go to the right and shut my eyes and do multiple to the rights. If you think of a VOR cancellation, what's happening is while you're looking right at that target, the vestibular system is saying, move, 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 yet you don't. So believe it or not, this is a pursuit stimulation to counteract that vestibular input. And again, another non-direct way to teach pursuits. Remember the power of the directionality too. Let's look at each side, which is worse. On the z-axis, pursuits on the z-axis, walking into a convergence, or even better, as you walk backwards, that stimulates a whole other set of neurons. So walking backwards into further away, or walking backwards into convergence and divergence, powerful tools. These are examples of the Focus Builder app. And here's an example of, just using trying to get the right brain to work. And that connects with cannot play. Go to the left and going vertically, going up. And I think we did this last time I was here. When you look at, we do smooth pursuits and you hold those neck muscles in that certain place, you'll actually feel the neck muscles wanting to move. So in a sense, when we do a smooth pursuit, we are canceling out that cervical ocular reflex. Again, another powerful tool, these connections between neck and pursuits. So when saccades are impaired, again, we're thinking more of the vermis, the FOR. And of course, we think about Maples test, the DMB from Richmond, our diagnostic tests go way back to the Visograph, which I used, or King Divic, and repair it with alphabet pencils, jumps. And remember, with hypometria, we want to do microsaccades and add a no VOR at each saccades, add that returning pursuit. And with the hypermetrics, we want to do microsaccades, but add an XO back. So we're going to do the cancellation for those. And let's go to horizontal right saccade. Jumping, that'll be our left frontal lobe, and our left saccade right frontal lobe. Vertical, again, gets both sides of the brain. And again, the idea of rhythm, that saccades with manual task and interactive metronome increases that connectivity between the cerebellum and the frontal cortex, and improve timing, attention, working memory, processing speeds, all these things to add that auditory component. And this is of course, the metronome with the interactive. So when the VOR is impaired, We measure that with dynamic visual acuity. And while we're walking, we're also going to use that with the iSync or other virtual reality devices. Remember, underactive catch-up saccades versus the overactive backup saccades, that the eyes have to be too fast or overactive. And so we use a volition experience or system to repair that. An overactive VOR, we want to go ahead and gain up by moving again in opposite directions, or gain down by the center. So let's think about that as we do a VOR here. This is a VOR chart. I would suggest each of our offices should have VOR charts, just like heart charts in our office, as we go back and forth. And as I look to the right, think of my right stimulation, left, horizontal, right, left. I want to go up, so I'm going to go posterior, anterior, posterior, anterior. And then, of course, we can get more complex if we have the time. Let's go ahead and do it all together. Let's go ahead and gain down, gain up, gain down, gain up. Like that, Kurt? Here's some other pearls. Remember, to get the semicircular canals to work, it has to be a particular speed, or if it's slow, the otolith system takes over. So we can use that to our advantage. Sometimes do it slow, sometimes it's fast. And remember, the direction angle makes a difference in isolating the canals or the EOMs, the muscles. And if you don't have that memorized, which I don't, make sure you get a picture of that chart so we understand which direction we're going. When we do this, we want to orient our ears, not just our neck. Think of our actual semicircular canals going in the direction of the movement. And this rotation can happen at our neck, at our shoulders, at our hips, and our whole body. A neck weight gives a proprioceptive anchor, which is also very helpful when we're moving our neck. So let's talk about AVOR cancellations, the gain down activities. And just remember that those individuals with autism have a higher gain than one sometimes. A good way to do it is lock the nose with a target and bring it near to far. A laser pointer often gives a more accurate view, so I know exactly where to hold in my feedback on, particularly when we're doing this type of movement. And then another very helpful thing is a Maddox rod. Looking through the rod, I can see a line on a white wall. I can go ahead and use my peripheral system more than my central system to make sure my cancellation is correct. And also it helps on the angle. So I know it helps me guide the angle that I need to go for those more complex movements. Again, same thing, rotating with our head, shoulders, hips, whole body, and then neck weight for the anchor. Now, this is the most exciting part that we got really excited at NORA, which was the translational VOR, or the vestibular storage mechanism reset. And so this is information from the focus builders, men, doctors. Translational is the most critical element of the vestibular sensory calibration because it's on all the time. It's perceiving gravity, linear acceleration, and translational movements. It's associated very closely with the storage mechanism, and it's always on. It's always letting us know where we are. And they've come up with this wonderful system, gravity reset system, which is a cancellation technique for the TVOR. Remember, the TVOR has close functional relationships with the stabilization system, smooth pursuits, and vergence, and it stabilizes that image on the entire retina. The TVOR only stabilizes the image on only on one place in the field. And so here's some applications. If we can just move this, we can use that to make sure our otolith system is reset. And the therapeutic portion is to go ahead and here in a chair, we can measure the vestibular, the velocity storage mechanism by just gently rotating, and you let the individual knows which direction the chair continues to rotate when it stops. If there's a directionality differential, that's the translation direction you want to use. And then using this setup where you are, again, using your central fixation with a 0-0 gain with the laser, with the proprioceptive balance, and then translational movements has been very helpful to reset individuals that are lost in space as a first step before starting any other therapy. These doctors use it pretty much in every case when the people first come through the door so that the rest of their therapies can be so much more successful. Deanne Fitzgerald is also using that. So just again, a smaller nutshell, cerebellum stimulation. Think about the right side, saccades up, pursuits down, left side opposite. And then this idea of the continuation of cerebellar activation. It's mechanoceptors, joints is really a lot of input, but remember the novelty to get the cerebral system active. Remember novelty, complexity, and the error correction, unpredictability, nature of that. And I'd like to finish up by talking about that controlled study. What worked so well for rehabbing a stroke was what we call the colliculus mapping activities, which essentially is the eye going up in this right direction here, and then coming down in pursuit. And I'm going to use my variation of the major stroke movement. And so for me, if someone has a field cut on the left side, I have an individual pursue to the right, and as soon as they get to the midline, they go to a VOR cancellation. Pursuit, cancellation, as they get better, pursuit, disappear, pursuit, disappear. This has been, I've used it in a number of cases, very effective in rehabbing increasing the field cut as well as reducing the amount of neglect on that side. And this is all has to do with error signals, and that error signal facilitates learning, that neuroplasticity, the long-term potentiation or long-term depression. And as it's been said, this fiber, the climbing fiber up the Purkinje, is the most studied learning fiber and the most plastic, they feel. That climbing fiber, I would call the poison ivy of the Purkinje tree. And what is a way we can drive that system even further? Perturbation can drive the postural error signals that alerts the brain that it needs to change. I would suggest that yoke prisms is a visual perturbation system. That's why it works so well. Yoke prisms are a powerful way to change the visual space and mapping as driven by neuroplasticity. And again, some of the key studies with owls, with the Knudsen lab, was with yoke prisms with owls, and the repeated errors, the spatial system changed their representative maps and caused the neuroplasticity. The other thing, of course, he found is that mature brains also can change. Yes, we can change. And I'm trying to get our new acronym. But it takes more, incremental learning and more repetitive errors to detect. So the vestibular system is this valuable porthole to get our neurochemicals in a state that favors plasticity. And the anti-gravity system is so reflectively connected with the system in the direction of gaze. And that's why all of these researchers use this system. We need to use it also. And adding eye movements to balance activities enhances, disrupts, and causes the plasticity. And this is not something new. Those who've been around, the neurology, the Pepper stress test. Do you remember the Pepper stress test? That's a test where an individual who has an eye that's not working as well or a lazy eye, is asked to do a isometric torque of their bodies, and all of a sudden their acuity goes up or their binocular system does better. Of course, Ray Gottlieb is the one that's taken that and done that the most, and he actually caused his place the eye gym. Just a hand, how many people, let's do it some tapping, how many people have a trampoline in their office? I want to share this story. This is it's classic. After we would go to these COVD conferences in the 80s and 90s, there was no, there was papers, but there was always that disc, the cassette disc we would get. And that we'd listen to those over and over. And of course, Dr. Cools was one of my favorite. I listened to that so many times. And he tells this story about Roger Dallas going to Dr. Pepper, and I talked to him about this event, one of Dr. Pepper's events, and Dr. Pepper was talking about bounce and movement and all this. And finally, Roger and I think Ron Bateman was out of frustration and said, "When are we going to talk about binocular vision?" And he said, "Oh, I just fix it like this." He showed him the Pepper test. That's not going to work. Well, he went home and tried it. And so Roger wrote a paper on that, and Dr. Cool picked it up and said, "I can't believe what you just told me, that you can change binocular systems by just torquing the shoulders." And Roger gave that classic, "I'm just a clinician. I just see what works." He said, "You call yourself a visual scientist. You tell me why it works." I think we have lots of neuro information now that shows why it works. And so, ending on David Z. and Ari's Shemes's, new technology will assist in the development of better diagnostic algorithms and novel treatments, taking advantage of the central role of the cerebellum in monitoring and adjusting movements to keep them accurate. And so that research knowledge is here. It's time to integrate that into our practice. And just a big thanks to Jack Richmond, who we honored last year. Fixations and testing for alcohol, DUIs, that's Cerebellar. And the men who start where they are and go where they ain't, WC, honored this year. You think about the oculomotor test, same thing. That was and is a assessment for cerebellum. Appreciate particularly the slides and help from Deanne Fitzgerald. She has a QR code. She has opened up some of these expansions for free online. So I hope that you take advantage of that to attend a NORA meeting. Really thanks to Eric Cobb and the individuals at Z Health University who allowed me to use their slides also. And again, there's many of us that think, gosh, they're playing in our sandbox. We have a big sandbox. And during COVID, he had over 10,000 trainings. And so I think we need to work very closely. I use my local gym as a ending point. Just like if I did some therapy, I need to have movement therapy to continue on. Just like a physical therapist has done the initial work, or a surgeon, I think we need to connect with these individuals. Appreciate also the work of the Focus Builder team and Jason, and just the kindness of them to share their information. And also Jam, who we did a presentation with a few years ago. Appreciate his insights on the cerebellum that got me going also. Just a note, Speakers Development Workshop right after. If you're welcome to come, and you can critique my work, as well as hopefully add another voice to this great organization. And so we'll end. And if you liked it, you're welcome to use your Cerebellar test to applause. Thank you.